And we are live from Japan. It is Greg and Matt sitting down here, Commander Marvel and my buddy Nightshade. We're both sitting down here talking. We're talking the Man of Steel here tonight, Matt, because you and I both this week watched the trailer for the new movie coming out. I figured, this would be a good, because this is the title of this program is Chapter One. We did Chapter Zero. We did the prologue last week, our general introduction. So now, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes of why we're doing the podcast is talk about comic book characters, comic book movies, so on and so forth. So we had the best of both worlds come at one time with the new Superman trailer. So, what do you think, man?
Well, it's the first movie trailer for a superhero movie, anyways, that has made me excited about superhero movies in a long time. Because before I'm just like, okay, you're doing the thing with the stones, and then okay, I get it. Yeah, it's interesting. But this has me excited. I'm hoping that it is the reboot that really carries this into many more movies, and expands into maybe a Justice League type of movie, because they're kind of setting that precedent a little bit with all the other superheroes that are present.
Yeah, and when even today I was looking through it. Now there's talk about incorporating the new Superman with the current Batman, which I don't know. I think it's possible. I mean, but the question is number one, we got to see how the Superman movie does.
Yeah.
And that's really everything kind of hinges on if people are going to go see the movie and their reaction to it. I mean, we've been down this road before with DC.
Yeah. And that's sort of the sad thing. It's, it lives by the hype and it dies by the hype. And too many people don't really think for themselves. They just go to Rotten Tomatoes and they make their judgment based on a Rotten Tomatoes score. And, that while I can understand that because, it's your hard-earned money at the end of the day. And just paying for a ticket alone in the U.S., gosh, is so expensive. So I can understand it, but at the same time, I think if more people thought for themselves instead of just going to Rotten Tomatoes and maybe just took the risk, they would find more and more movies that they enjoy.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And I think this is going to be one of those cases because the movie looks fantastic. If it's even half as good as the trailer, I'll be a happy boy.
Oh yeah, I will too. And the hook for the trailer all week ever since the trailer dropped, the breakout star of the trailer has been Crypto the Superdog, which
yeah, Crypto the Superdog. Oh, the super good boy.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's exciting. As somebody who loves dogs, and I love cats too. I'm not like an either or type of guy, but as somebody who loves dogs, I'm super excited. No pun intended. Yeah, I can't wait to see the good boy on screen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. What we saw was pretty cool, and to me it was very personal because I had two dogs. I had two white little dogs for a very long time, and one of them looked pretty much like Crypto. So for me, it was like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more personal.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm in. They had me right. It's like, you had me at hello. It's like, right. You've got me. I'm already dialed in. So, and I didn't. And like you, because we talked about this before, we started recording. I really don't know much about crypto. The whole, I mean, I know kind of the backstory, and back in the
Yeah,
50s, 60s,
there
how came up,
there
he
has
came out, but
yeah there was some talk about creating currency after crypto. They were going to call it cryptocurrency. Sorry, that was so bad. I
that was,
know.
I don't have a rim shot. I don't have a rim shot sound effect.
Yeah, this is going to come back to haunt me years later. I'm sure somebody will bring it up and be like, hey, remember in episode 1 when you? Yeah, I remember in episode 1.
And well, they with crypto, let's talk about cryptocurrency because let's just kind of use that analogy with superhero movies in general, but Superman movies in general. When
Right.
Superman first came out, now you weren't even born when the first Superman came out. The first Superman movie came out, correct?
When was the first Superman movie?
78 or 79. I think it was
Yeah,
70.
that was about 10 years before me.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So I remember vividly my dad taking my brother and I to go see Superman. And, we were kids and we loved every minute of it. And my dad must have loved really wanted to go see it too. It was one of the odd things. I don't remember too many, when I think back in my childhood, going to the movie with my dad, there was only a couple movies we went to. And that was one of them. The other one was Cannonball Run. Um,
Wow.
Another great 70s movie. But yeah, that was the one where my dad made an effort to, my brother and I to go because he really wanted to see it. And that's really kind of where the superhero movie genre was born. And with a nod to, but before that movie, people knew Superman as, the late George Reeves from the TV show.
Right.
And yeah, but the thing is even with that, George Reeves was not the first person to play Superman because you had Superman on the big screen back in the 40s with the serials, with the movie serials they had back, 80 years ago, 80 to 90, almost 90 years ago. So, but the superhero genre began with, the first Superman.
Yeah, he's sort of like the great grandfather of what we have now. Um, I think superhero movies have gone from rather a rather than a fad, they've become a genre.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Real
like
quick too.
yeah, because I think now we're at the point where I mean this might be one of those situations where my statement ages like milk
Mhm.
and doesn't age like wine, but I think we're in an ecosystem where we'll always have superhero movies. It won't be like it was before where once in a blue moon you'll have a superhero movie. We'll at least have something once every couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. And with streaming the way it is now, I mean, I'm in the middle of watching, I'm almost done with the Pennyworth series on Max. And with streaming, it's so easy. It's easier now to take all those comic book stories and translate them into a visual work other than animation into a live action
Right.
because of the way streaming is now. You can do things like with Pennyworth, you can do things in 30 chapters, and there you go. It's not like you've got like Watchmen. Watchmen would have been great, I think, the way Zack Snyder did it, if you would have had him do, you know, like what they did with Watchmen later on as a miniseries on Max. I think
I
that
think
would have been the way to go.
I think also to that same point we have good evidence that it works well because we have the Loki series.
Yeah.
And that works really well. I I've only watched the first season whenever it first came out, but it was fantastic. It's just, I don't want to spend money on another subscription service, so I'm not
Yeah.
going. Um, I'm not going to do that just to, watch a season. I'll wait until they have some sort of deal.
I did for the Disney. I got
Yeah,
it for like $2 a month
yeah,
this year.
and then I'm just going to binge it and in as quick a time as possible,
Yeah.
and then that'll be like, that's my sort of inexpensive way of having an entertainment budget, is sort of bottlenecking when I can enjoy it.
Right.
And just funneling it all in at one point, just trying to get it to come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Loki series was great. And your talk of Pennyworth this week, whenever you've been updating me on your binge, has got me wanting to watch it. But I'll definitely have to consider it. I mean, you already got me. You already got me subscribed to Marvel Unlimited,
Yeah.
which I'll probably read a little bit tonight before bed, because I'm reading The Amazing Spider-Man, but I don't want to digress from the Superman at hand.
Well, get back to Superman. So talk, we had him. So the superhero genre, like I said, started with the first Superman, continued on to the second Superman, which was, I would dare say, even better than the first. And then you had, after that, it was kind of like what we're dealing with now in the 21st century with the Marvel movies. You saw a decline.
Yeah.
So you had Superman 3 came out, which was, I mean, it's fun to watch that movie now to see the graphics and Richard Pryor and everything. Wasn't a great movie in general. Then he had Superman. Before that one, I got to think about this one. I can't remember which came first, the Supergirl movie or Superman 4. But either way, both were not received well. And then the genre kind of died, because back then, we're in the 80s, special effects obviously weren't there to make Spider-Man or any of the other ones. But one of the things I've been watching on Amazon Prime was the documentary about the making of all the Batman movies, from Batman 1989 all the way up until the Dark Knight, the last of the Christopher Nolan series.
Isn't the Dark Knight that series of movies, isn't that still top of the charts in terms of rated the best movies of all time?
Oh yeah, yeah. And there was something, and also with that, also some of the biggest. Well, Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises were two of the biggest grossing movies ever in superhero. Before obviously Avengers broke the bank, Marvel broke the bank with everything.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm trying to think what I was. So we had, so the Superman 4 pretty much killed at that point, from what I recall, the superhero genre. But Batman brought it back a few years later. And then, but Superman kind of got lost in there. There were no Superman movies up until, what, 2011 or 2012, was it? I can't remember. 2013 is when they brought Man of Steel out to reboot. That's when DC was going. DC wanted to be Marvel, and I think the plan was great, but the execution was poor. Even though you and I both enjoyed those DC movies.
Yeah. I think, and we can get into this a little bit, but just tied to the idea of Rotten Tomatoes is that hive mind that people get. They're just determined to hate on something for some reason. They get an idea in their head, because I've found myself contaminated by it. Um,
Oh yeah, social media is social in those things. It's like, yeah, it's easy to pile on. It's kind of like with politics too. It's very akin to politics.
yeah, it really is, and it's kind of unfortunate. It's just like why just pardon my language, but why the hell can't we just at the end of the day have a nice cold drink, or if it's winter, where you have a nice hot drink,
Yeah,
relax and just enjoy a movie and
yeah,
enjoy it. Like we're just the current state of media consumption has made people so hypercritical. Like everyone thinks they're Siskel and Ebert, and it kind of makes me crazy. I'm just like, relax, we can enjoy this,
yeah.
even though it's not perfect and it has its flaws. You know, just like it's not about all the flaws. It's
Right.
about the good parts and about what is trying to be accomplished here.
Huh. It's a comic book movie. At the end of the day, it's make believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good example of that is so when Man of Steel came out, everybody was ripping on Man of Steel. I'm like, I watched it. I'm like, okay, it was a little dark. I mean, but it wasn't any darker. I mean, to me, I didn't really think it was that dark until
Right.
people started kind of pointing it out. Like, yeah, but you know, at the end of the day, it's a comic. It's somebody's take on a character. Much like comic book artists, you have different comic book artists draw the character differently.
Yeah, exactly. Like John Romita Jr. is going to draw Spider-Man differently than oh gosh, oh the name just escaped me. He did the run of he did like a long run of Supergirl back like 10 years ago. Uh I think it's like Mahmoud Asrar or something like
Okay.
that. But they're gonna um it's gosh, I can't remember who it was, but um they're just gonna have that different style.
It's I know. I just yeah, and that's when I get into those arguments or talking about it, it's like, yeah, you've got different artists having different interpretations, but nobody's openly hating. I mean, maybe they probably are somewhere on Reddit, somewhere deep within Reddit, but um, not. But when it comes to the movies, because it's so very few in comparison, so many in comparison to comic books, you have so many few comic book movies. It's easy to kind of just go after a movie than it would be to go after a comic book artist. That's just my
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, it really is because like I was recently reading a couple issues of Spider-Man when I thought, and he's one of the artists that I revere. I follow him on Instagram, and like he's just a master with a pencil. Is John Romita Jr. And I was
Yeah.
reading issues of Spider-Man where like I thought, wow, I kind of wish he rendered Aunt May a little bit differently. Like I think he could have done things a little bit more differently to convey the lines in her skin from being elderly. Um, but would I ever say that to his face? No. I like it's kind of like that with the movie. It's just like, wow, I wish some of these things had been done a little bit differently, but I just keep it to myself. I don't spread any sort of negativity that seems to like leach its way out and get everywhere.
It's yeah, it's just like I said, it's just so easy for um yeah, I just to me when it comes to the movie, I mean, there's a reason we have a Reddit page. We've got all we're we just started up all our social media,
Yeah.
and some of the social media that I've set up, we haven't posted anything yet because, well, number one, we haven't had the time,
Right.
but we'll use Reddit as an example. We set up a Reddit page. We'll see how that goes. But you and I both have a presence on Reddit. You more than I do. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I really don't, I don't try. I go on Reddit to get information, but I've been banned so many times in American. On not when it comes to the comic, subjects, but when it comes to the football subjects. Have my bans been justified? Yeah, yeah, sometimes. Yeah. It's one of those if I got to think about it, I go, there's probably it's probably good reason why I was banned. But
Yeah.
Reddit to me is very toxic in some instances,
Oh
but very
yeah.
helpful in another,
Yeah.
So
Like that, I try to keep my nose in the helpful areas.
yeah, yeah.
Reddit. Like
I haven't dug into this. I need to go dig into the Superman Reddit. I probably should do that tonight, or if not tonight, at least while I got downtime on my flight back to the States next week. Because
yeah, I'm sure there's some video that's like, check out our hyper analysis of all the Easter eggs that you could find in this video.
dude, there's so many right now. I went to my recommendation on YouTube, going, oh geez.
Right.
Some are really good. Emergency Awesome's really. Some of these guys that do these videos are just really good at what they do, and they point out stuff, and it's like, and you and I, neither you or I have that kind of time or energy to put into that.
Yeah, just rewatching the same clip over and over again, and be like, wait, I thought I saw something on frame 37.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to the point you're going, I'll just watch it. I'll just see it when it comes out. I don't need. Yeah. And so, okay, so going back to the new Superman movie in the trailer, everybody's ripping on Guy Gardner.
Yeah, it's how he looked in the comic books. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, how are they supposed to make him look any different?
He's got the Mo Howard haircut in the comics. He's got the Mo Howard haircut in the. Do you know my Mo Howard reference, by the way?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, good. Because you know what, we've got an age difference, and sometimes.
I grew up.
I throw something out, and I see that look, and I'm like, okay, he's either he gets it or he has no idea what I'm talking about. So, but yeah,
that's the story of my life. It's a 50-50 shot of whether I get it or not. But,
right? Yeah, the cultural, But then again, there was a time there when I was like 40, and I mentioned the word Betamax to somebody about that I worked with who was like in her 20s at the time. And she looked at me. She goes, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So
now I know what Betamax is. Yeah. Just because I've watched enough old TV, just because it's kind of how I was raised, but it was just kind of what I liked.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes, but going back to the Mo Howard haircut of his,
yeah.
Even how he's drawn in the comics now. How he's drawn in this in this movie. People are just really. It's just toxic. Nobody's really mentioned Hawkgirl because you barely get a glimpse of her, and obviously Krypto was the breakout star, and so there was a lot more focus. But there wasn't as much hate on. There wasn't any hate on Krypto. There was, at least that I saw, wasn't any hate on Hawkgirl or Mr. Terrific. It was all on Guy Gardner, so on Superman's costume too. What's your thoughts on that costume?
Honestly, I didn't even notice it. Like, I didn't notice the costume. Like,
to me, it seemed very old-fashioned in the sense that it was also practical, and you could see him being able to get in and out of it without assistance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a take I'll agree with. Yeah.
Yeah. Because okay, so the costume, the way it's done, looks very. I want to say George Reeves, the 1940s serial era Superman,
Right.
that kind of feel. And then you look at it and it's like, okay, this also has to be a practical uniform, kind of like what they did with Captain America.
Right.
You know, to me, it looked very practical. Not because like Henry Cavill and even with the Flash, those those are great movies and great visuals. But how's the dude going to take a pee?
Yeah, it's just sometimes whenever you look at those costumes, like your clothes feel tighter just looking at them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, maybe with James Gunn, with the way he's doing it now, we'll get a bit more real. It's it's still a comic book movie, but at the end of the day, we can look at the costume and going, oh, okay, all right, that works. Because I just kind of look at it going, is it function? Is the costume for show or is it for function? But I always go back to Captain America when they brought out his suit, and you looked at his suit and going, okay, I could see a soldier wearing something like. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have some credibility behind that because you retired from the military.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, okay, that looks wearable. That looks, you and so with Superman's costume, yeah, it looks I'm actually happy with how they did it. We'll
Yeah.
see what the final product does.
I didn't really notice it, so I think just the fact that I just recognized it as a Superman costume and didn't
Yeah.
question it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, one of the things that Alex Ross did well that I liked was I like how he designed the S on Superman. Like he sort of redesigned the S on Superman.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed there. At least I hope I'm thinking about the correct artist, redesigning the S a little bit. But if you're not making any waves, as far as I'm concerned, you're fine. But that Alex Ross way of making waves with the redesigning the S a little bit, I thought was cool.
Yeah.
So I think making waves that way is fine.
Well, my other take on this too is James Gunn is in a position where, you know what, you might as well do it your way, because at this point, again, going back to what we said about the superhero genre, it does need a recharge. It needs a Superman movie. It needs, you got the new Captain America coming out in February, which bless you, which to me looks, just based on the teaser trailers we've seen, okay, that's going to be pretty good. It reminded me, talking about Captain America, when Winter Soldier came out, which
bless you. Sorry.
Winter Soldier was, to me, is still probably the best of the Marvel movies in terms of plot and suspense, and just the way it was written. To me, that's always my favorite. So hopefully with James, hopefully the writing's going to be good for the Superman movie, that we'll see a sequel, or we'll see a World's Finest movie coming out.
That would be amazing. I would love that. I think James Gunn does such a masterful job that it's hard for me to imagine a world where there's at least not a second movie, or where there's at least a second movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're paying them enough money, so I would assume they've got a lot invested in this. So, but the one thing DC has going for them right now is Marvel has not been doing well. But I have a feeling with the new slate of movies coming out with Captain America and the Thunderbolts and what's coming in the future, I mean, the competition is going to be tight again. But DC has an opportunity to literally reset itself after, I think, what was the last? Oh, it was the Flash movie, which to me was still, I thought was a great movie, but nobody went to see it,
including yours truly. Yeah.
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't see it. I wanted to, but for me, I'm a hard person to get motivated to go to the theater. The last movie that I saw was with you whenever we saw the Shazam movie.
Yeah, that was that was about 2 years ago now. So
Yeah, like
yeah,
or at least that's the last movie in theaters that I've seen. I've
right.
seen uh, other movies like streaming. If it is more convenient for me to watch, then I'll probably watch it at home. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
because, and I guess I've made myself fall victim to just uh, how do I say it? Fall victim to being a comfortable watcher and just being like, oh well, it'll stream eventually, and then I'll watch it then.
Well, that's pretty much how I am at this point. Because I mean, the way listen, the technology has changed so much in the last 20 years for TV watching. I mean, what we have now in our homes or the stuff of science fiction 30 years ago. And
Right.
so to be able to watch a movie with, you know, like you would, I mean, I'm sitting in, right back here. I've got what, I don't know how many inch TV I've got, but it's, in the other room, I, I don't need to go to the theater. I mean, I don't need stereo surround sound either. I mean, the speakers on these TVs now are such that it's like, okay, this works. I don't need the full surround sound. Um, so watching it on streaming, like you said, just like, hey, I'll wait for it to come on streaming. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Also, too, where we live at, let's face it, on this side of the world,
Yeah.
going to the theater ain't an easy thing, especially when we live in a culture here where yeah, most of the movies you and I can't see because there are no subtitles. Meaning
Right.
there are no subtitles in Japanese for there are no subtitles in English for Japanese movies, but for English movies that come here, there are subtitles in Japanese. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think
Did I
so.
flip flop that? Okay. Um, so being able to watch, like we did, we went and saw the cat. I refuse to call him Shazam. Went to see the Captain Marvel, the DC Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Um, that was nice because you and I got to sit there. We, subtitles were all in Japanese. It was in English. We were good. We were, it's like we were back in the States. It felt good. But to see a movie, but nowadays, I mean, there's just plus two. I mean, after COVID, everything kind of changed. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Going back to what you said, it's just easier, and comic book movies not only are easier to watch at home, but they're more accessible.
Right.
Yeah.
I but it breaks my heart in a way because there is just something so powerful about the nostalgia of a movie theater, and just going to the movies with your buds, whether it was like, it doesn't matter what kind of movie it was. It
Oh
could have
yeah,
been a
yeah.
kung fu movie, and sneaking in snacks in your clothes or something like that, or
Hmm.
trying to get snacks snuck into the movie theater, and in that same way, I think it sort of pains my heart for comic book stores,
Yeah.
because comic book stores, they're not making money hand over fist.
No, they're not. They're not. I mean, and it's just so much easier now to pick up, especially, well, you and I are the exception to the rule because we live in a place where trying to find American comic book stores it's impossible
Yeah.
unless you live in a certain spot in Japan. But it's just now so easy to pay a subscription and just read things on. So technology has improved our lives, but like, you know, we miss that old we miss that feel of paper between our hands.
Yeah, exactly. Like just because the type of comic book reader I was, the edges of the paper were orange because those were the comic books that I
Yeah.
read, and then just the smell of an old issue of Doctor Strange, like, I'm recalling it now, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the
Uh,
smell of an old
well,
issue of Doctor
I
Strange.
still brought I still brought with me. I still have a few of um, my old comics, my comic book collection. Some did make the trip over, but
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them, most of them didn't. But I have everything now digitally accessible, whether it be whether it be Marvel or whether it be DC or whether it be off my Kindle. So, but okay, so to finish up here, we got about 10 more minutes here. Let's talk more. Let's wrap up our Superman discussion here. So let's
Right.
talk about what do you think's going to how do you think this is going to work out? I mean, based upon what you saw in the trailer. And again, the trailer is just a trailer. You can have a bad movie and the trailer will make it look like a blockbuster. So we
Right.
don't know what's going to happen. But
I think if I can relate it to something I do know. So in chess we have something called the opening. I know you're not a chess guy and you don't know how to play, but
no,
in
not
chess we
even.
have something called the opening. That's the
Yeah.
first few moves of the game. And like I make a couple moves, the other guy makes a couple moves, and we can kind of see the direction of where it's going. Sometimes you can tell after a couple extra moves into the opening where things are going, and sometimes you can tell the difference between, not always, but the difference between an opening played by an amateur and an opening played by a professional. And in this regard, I feel like they have set all of the pieces up correctly. It looks like this opening has been played by a professional and that it's going to be a
Okay.
hit.
Okay. Well, I'd be curious to get because I know next year, 2025, one of the people that we're going to have on the show, we just got to work out the time zone differences and our schedules here on this side of the world, is a guy by the name of Adam Snow who does the Adam Snow channel, also on YouTube. And Adam's a friend of mine who also does a football podcast on which I regularly appear for to report on the scores on American football here in Japan. So, but Adam is also a huge DC fan, big Batman fan. So I'm very curious to hear his take on comic book movies that he has seen in the past and what's coming up in the future. And I know he's got very strong opinions about them. So if anybody has seen, the Adam Snow, if you haven't subscribed to the Adam Snow channel on YouTube, um, definitely give it a. I'm going to try here after we sign off. I need to edit our. Need to put a link to his show in the description. So, but Adam, yeah, I want to hear Adam. Really, the one person his opinion I really want to hear is Adam because, um, much like you, he's very opinionated. Much like you and I, he's very opinionated on the superheroes and superhero movies in general. And so that's a conversation we're definitely going to have. And also, too, with DC Universe's John Stewart Green Lantern, my buddy George Washington, who will be coming on the show next year too. So little bit of plug for what's coming up ahead. So, but wrapping up here talking about Superman. So just based on if I'm hearing you, then man, your thumbs up on the trailer in terms of
Yeah,
positivity.
thumbs up on the trailer, and I just hope that they execute it well. But with James Gunn's history and the team that they have on it, it looks like it's going to be a success. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think after watching the trailer? How do you think it's?
Well, it kind of goes, my thought on it is actually kind of in the title of this episode, Superman's Ghost. Because in watching what I saw, at least me, this, beauty is in the eye of the beholder and art is very subjective. Excuse me. But in watching that, I saw maybe it was, I don't know if it was intentional or maybe it was or unintentional, but the Superman in this movie to me, especially in his costume, and it felt like a little bit of an homage to George Reeves, who was the first
Right.
He was the first Superman on TV, and it goes to the title of the show, Superman's Ghost, which is a song by Don McLean, and it's not about Superman, it's about George Reeves, the guy who played Superman. Without going in any depth about what happened to George Reeves, but he ended up killing himself because he got typecast and in that role. Not that I'm saying that's what's going to happen with the guy playing him, but in terms of the look of the Superman outfit, in terms of how I felt watching, felt very much like a 12-year-old watching black and white Superman again. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cool feeling. It's like, it's got that vibe. At least it has that vibe to me. And obviously it'll be, that's just, again, I'm just.
I will say one thing that might be a little bit controversial, and not very controversial. I'm not sure I approve of their choice for Lex Luthor.
That one I saw. I don't know. My judgment is. I'm reserving my judgment on Lex Luthor. That's right, because we hadn't talked about him yet.
Yeah, I'll say that. In my head, Lex Luthor is always stronger. He's not like a whiny little pimply little. Well, I'm not saying this guy's pimply, but he's not like a whiny weak guy. He's like more strong, and he's very intellectually savvy. Which it may have just been the angle of the 3 seconds we saw him on the screen.
Yeah, he had really no screen in comparison to the dog. He had no screen time.
Yeah, it's so it's really that was my only negative take about the trailer, was like I'm not 100% on Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
But I mean, he does look like Lex Luthor. He looks like he doesn't have like the jaw definition.
Right.
But I remember I think it was about 2000. It was election season. And I remember getting from my local comic book shop, it said Lex 2000. It had Lex Luthor's face on it. And it was a little campaign button to vote for Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how, you take a look at that comic book now, and just how quickly reality imitated art.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my, that's just my opinion right there.
Right.
But when it comes to Lex Luthor, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the guy playing him for this movie, is the one that we remember years. If you ask who do you remember as Lex Luthor, like, to me it's always Gene Hackman in that first movie.
Right.
But even then, they've always.
But I could be dead wrong. I was wrong about Doctor Strange, though maybe not entirely, because originally cast for Doctor Strange was Joaquin Phoenix, and I think Joaquin Phoenix would have played.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Joaquin Phoenix would have played an amazing Doctor Strange, and would have played the role of an arrogant son of a gun so well, and would have just made an amazing Doctor Strange. But Benedict Cumberbatch did a great job as well.
Yeah, he did it. I mean, he's the one he did a great job on it. Which, you think about with the comic book movies of the 21st century, all the people that have played in those movies are still identified with those roles, whether it be all the guys playing, all the guys who played Spider-Man. Even now, I mean, they're bringing in Marvel. Everybody is just so identified with those roles in one way or the other. But with I don't know. With Batman, you had how many guys have played Batman over the years? But with that said, going back to, like I said, talking about George Reeves being typecast, all of the people that have played superheroes since, none of them have been typecast as superheroes.
True.
We're of course, in the 50s and the 60s, that was a different time. Adam West was typecast as Batman. Of course, that's how he made his living, because he embraced that role after a while because that's what brought him fame. So, but going back to what I said about the movie, and to me, watching the trailer reminded me of, made me think of, man, what he looked very much like a 1950s Superman set in a 21st century world, which I think is cool because,
Right.
so that's it.
That's
That's
kind of who he is. That's
yeah,
kind of, he's, other than the initial few years of Superman or the initial first couple decades, he was a good old farm boy with good old values moving into the city. And that's kind of like, that's what he is now. He's a good old farm boy. And they kind of portrayed him as such, and I think that's a good take, and that's an honest take on Superman.
yeah, yeah. And to me, it's the way Henry Cavill played him, and he did a great job. But I never got that feeling he was a farm boy from Kansas.
Yeah, yeah, he did do a great job, though.
Yeah,
I will miss him as Superman, but hopefully, this next guy, whoever he is, takes up the mantle.
yeah. I can't think of the actor's first name off the top of my head either. So, but I just from the look and feel of the trailer, I think James Gunn, made the right call, and
Oh, absolutely.
we'll see. So, but yeah, I mean, just it's another one in that long line of guys that has played Superman. Just even the last 20 years, how many guys have played Superman? You had
So,
you had Superman from the CW. You had obvious. I mean, man, I got to sit down and count, but a lot of guys have played Superman since George Reeves.
yeah, I'll call it the Silver Age, but the quote unquote Silver Age is Dean Cain. I enjoyed that series.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, Lois and Clark. Then he had Superboy, which I've got the first season on DVD here. They never came out with another season on DVD. And then also too the people that voiced the character in the cartoon. So a lot there. So well, listen, man, we're gonna wrap it up here. We're again, people are watching tonight on Twitch, on YouTube, and thank you very much for tuning in. And we'll be back. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, thank you, and thank you again, like Commander Marvel said. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for joining us. If you have any suggestions, please make sure to leave them in the comments or leave them in the chat threads. Since we're doing this live, and then it'll be automatically posted to YouTube. So please let us know if you have any suggestions. I know my lighting isn't perfect, things like that. If you have any suggestions at all, be sure, we would love the engagement. Be sure to let us know, and we'd really appreciate that. Just don't forget to, as they say in the business, like and subscribe.
Yep. And we're also including, in terms of video, not only on YouTube, but we're also on Rumble. And, I know people have been watching us there. So for everybody watching on Rumble, thank you very much for watching. And, but please leave comments in the comment section, because as I've learned just recently, that's how that's important to the algorithm. So any help you can give, if you got an opinion, whether it be good or bad, different, let us know. So, the more people, we want to hear from you. And, yeah, we've got, we're at NavyComics.com, and we're on Navy. If you just type in Navy Comics in any of the major social media, except Twitch, because we're Navy Comics TV. And I said that last show.
And make sure there's no space.
There's what?
Make sure there's no space in Navy Comics.
Right. So, but if you just type in Navy Comics, all one word in the search engine, I think most of our stuff's going to come up now. So,
right, yeah.
All right. Well, listen, hey everybody, thank you very much for watching, and this is Matt and Greg signing off for tonight, and we will see you in 2025. Merry Christmas and have a happy New Year, everybody.
A happy new
Bye-bye.
year. Bye bye.